Yo, what's up, guys? This is Coach Mr. E. We absolutely love bringing you the best call center training videos, and we also know that you love watching and learning from these videos. So take a moment to like, click, and subscribe to get the latest notifications on new call center training videos. Now, watch this video that's up next.
Turns out that they went to their interview. I think like 90% passed. They got their job. So it was a success. 90% approval pass. So I was like, whoa, satisfied. That worked. I said, it really worked. Turns out that a month later, I was doing another class and a gentleman comes to my class, very excited, right? And he goes, I go, yeah, who is it? And I saw this gentleman with the Alorica work badge. And he comes up to me and he says, Mr. E, look, look. And he shows me his badge, very excited. And I go, oh, yeah, I remember you, Juan. Yeah, Juan from the class. Hey, man, congratulations. You got your job, bro. And he showed me, yeah, Mr. E, I got my job. And I was teaching a class, right? And so what happened? What did you do? And he said, Mr. E, thank you so much, man. And he brought me like a McDonald's bag and coffee. And I said, hey, thank you, bro. And he said, Mr. E, the best thing that you taught me in that course was the conversation fillers, man. I used the fillers with the questions and I passed the interview, man, with the manager too. And I was like, yeah, awesome, dude. I'm glad. I'm glad that you took it and passed it. And he was like, no, man, thank you so much. With these fillers, I feel like now I can manage my conversations better. And I was actually hired. And I said, good job, bro. Keep doing it, keep learning and whatnot. So the guy, hey, what's up, y'all? Thanks for coming tonight. Really appreciate that for everybody coming in. Today's lesson is on conversation fillers. We are talking about natural English or natural conversation in terms of customer service. Um, well, what are conversational fillers? So what I'm going to do first is I'd like to start with a little true story. And then I'll explain to you what are conversation fillers. I'll give you some examples of what are conversation fillers and a little dialogue here. So let's say that you're going to do a job interview. I'll start with that. When you go to a job interview for a call center job, especially if it's your first job, you're not really sure what to say. English is not your first language, and you don't know what question exactly the recruiter or the call center manager is going to ask you. Well, um, check this out. So let's say you're in an interview with a manager. The manager says to you, "Hey, listen, why did you decide to work for a call center? I mean, you got a degree and you got this. So why don't you decide to do something else? Why did you pick a call center?" Well, I decided to work for a call center because the salary is good and the perks are also good and let's see, because you can work from home, you know what I mean? Oh yeah, sure, I know. Okay, so what did I do here? So um I want you to pay attention to that. So today we're talking about these sounds, these words like well, you know, um, right? Let's see all of these words that you see here and phrases that I'm underlining. These are called conversation fillers. Okay. And what are conversational fillers? Well, let's start with a definition and then I'll tell you a really interesting story. So, well, let's start like this. I think the story is pretty interesting to begin with. So, um, I know that English is not our first language, not for everybody here, right? And sometimes we need time to think. We need to gather our thoughts. And it's only natural because of the vocabulary, maybe because we're nervous, or, we need time to think, or maybe we're not prepared for that specific question. So you need to manage a conversation. Okay. So what if I told you that there's an easy, natural way to manage a conversation and you don't need to sound scripted? A lot of times people, when they talk about job interviews, they want to memorize job interview questions, which is good in some way because you can learn some specific words. But what if the conversation is not about that? What if the conversation is different? So you need to be able to be prepared and manage the conversation, right? Now, let me start with a little story. Way back, I remember that I had a project for some time, and there were these new hires. They were hiring people. They urgently needed people for T-Mobile, so they were hiring people off the street that had 50% English, right? It was a low intermediate level. And my job, I was assigned a group, several groups of people to train them and coach them. And before they got into the call center, they had to do a job interview. They had to do two job interviews, one with a recruiter. And the second one, if they passed that first interview, they had to do an interview with the manager, the account manager, the T-Mobile account manager. So, but these people had not signed a contract. They were not hired yet. They are candidates for the position, right? So, I was assigned the job to boost their level in a month. So I had a month, and these people had they were coming to the call center. The call center was not paying them nothing, nothing at all. They just had to come out of their own will if they wanted to get the job and come to my classes, right? So turns out that I had a bunch of people, and I evaluated them, and their level was quite low. And I said, how am I going to get these people into the call center fast, right? So what I did was I said, after listening to them, I found out that some were memorizing, others were just taking too long. So when you ask them, so why do you want to work for a call center? Their mind would go blank, like, um, because like that, blank. That's called a silence gap. Those are silence gaps. And those will absolutely kill your fluency in a job interview. That will kill your fluency. Other people were using fillers for Spanish. So when I asked them, they were using Spanish fillers, and it's only natural. So they were saying, so I mean, why do you want to work for this call center at Lorica? And they were answering, este is a good salary. Este, I like the money. I need money. So they were using these sounds. And those are sounds and words that we use naturally in Spanish when we're thinking or gathering our thoughts. And that also affects your fluency. So as an accent evaluator, because sometimes I had to evaluate people for their job interviews, as an accent evaluator, these type of things like using fillers that are from Spanish or silence gaps, those kill fluency. Those are fluency killers, right? And that's a situation for people. So after I assessed the situation with them, we decided to I decided to take an action plan. My action plan was to help these people manage their conversation, because I mean, their grammar wasn't bad. Their grammar was okay. It was intermediate, right? And the vocabulary was all right, right? The problem was that they didn't know how to speak English. They didn't sound natural, right? So what I did is I taught them conversation fillers. I taught them how to use conversation fillers, and I coached them to use them in their dialogues. And I taught them how to use the correct sounds, correct words, phrases, and to use them to manage when they needed to think about a question, right? So, what are your strengths and weaknesses? Well, let me see. That's a good question. Well, you see, I think that I'm patient, you know. So those fillers, those they manage the conversation and they give us time to gather our thoughts. So I coach them how to use this. Right, back to the story. Turns out that they went to their interview. I think like 90% passed. They got their job. So it was a success. 90% approval pass. So I was like, whoa, satisfied. That worked. I said, it really worked. Turns out that a month later, I was doing another class, and a gentleman comes to my class, very excited, right? And he goes, I go, yeah, who is it? And I saw this gentleman with the Alorica work badge. And he comes up to me and he says, Mr. E, look. And he shows me his badge, very excited. And I go, oh, yeah, I remember you, Juan. Yeah, Juan from the class. Hey, man, congratulations. You got your job, bro. And he showed me, yeah, Mr. E, I got my job. And I was teaching a class, right? And so what happened? What did you do? And he said, Mr. E, thank you so much, man. And he brought me like a McDonald's bag and coffee. And I said, hey, thank you, bro. And he said, Mr. E, the best thing that you taught me in that course was the conversation fillers, man. I used the fillers with the questions and I passed the interview, man, with the manager too. And I was like, yeah, awesome, dude. I'm glad that you took it and passed it. And he was like, no, man, thank you so much. With these fillers, I feel like now I can manage my conversations better. And I was actually hired. And I said, good job, bro. Keep doing it, keep learning and whatnot. So the guy actually came and thanked me because I taught him how to use this, and he used it in his job interview and was able to manage the difficult questions. That's all he did. Manage the difficult questions, because you need to think, you need to gather your thoughts, right? What am I going to say? So true story, how this guy got hired, and I'm sure a lot of the guys use them as well. So as part of going back to our lesson, as part of our curriculum, we teach students early how to use this because it helps you. It helps you manage conversations. And as you heard from the call that we've been listening this week, the interaction between the agent and the customer is like this, right? There are a lot of conversation fillers in their dialogue because it's only natural. Okay, so that's one application. Now going back to the lesson. So what is a conversation filler? So here's the definition. So conversation fillers are sounds, words, or phrases that are used to manage a natural conversation. They don't really express a meaning, but help us gather our thoughts and avoid silence gaps. So gather, gather our thoughts, and of course, to avoid silence gaps. So when we're thinking, there's this gap, this space where we have nothing to say, right? This is a gap, a silence gap. So what we do is we fill in the dead air, right? In that dead air, we fill it in with one of those sounds. Ah, for example, or when we're trying to think, or we fill it with one of those words, like, and we expand them, or we fill it in with one of the phrases, Okay, so we avoid the silence by filling in those silence gaps with a filler sound, a filler phrase, or a filler word. We fill that space in. So that's why we fill in those silence gaps, and that's why they're called fillers, because we fill in the silence with these words or phrases, okay? And that's the purpose of them, to avoid silence. And what are the three types? Well, basically, there are three kinds. I'll share with you a bunch that we're going to use, but basically, this is what we're going to have. We're going to have sounds. The sounds for English, not Spanish, are and Okay. Now you don't want to use. I know that naturally in Spanish we say when we think and we say este. Sometimes people say este. So you want to avoid this. This is going to kill your fluency. Okay. You want to coach yourself. Don't say say Actually, in the trainings, that's what we say. Don't say say or My favorite filler, and you've heard me, is this one. It's the one that I use a lot when I'm trying to think. All right, guys. So let's get together and let's practice today's lesson. All right. So I use this one a lot. Okay. So these are sounds. Don't use those. Secondly, we're going to have a bunch of words that we use, like, well, see, kinda, right? So we use kinda sometimes, and several others, right? Several others. And there are a bunch of phrases, phrases when we want to, when we start, when we try to think or gather our thoughts. Oh, that's a good question. Oh, I haven't thought about that. Let me see. Let me think. I think, in my opinion, let's say. So those are words that helps us gather phrases. Phrases like, or you know what I mean, or let me think. This is a good one, Now, usually, especially here in Guatemala, people, when they're thinking and they don't know what to say, they literally tell you, they say in Spanish, no sé. So you ask them in English, in Spanish, hey, what do you think about this? No sé, no sé. And they say no sé for everything. And what they do is they translate that to English and they say, I don't know. And this is a problem because this is a direct translation from a Spanish filler to English. So is people that don't know the fillers, they go like, so why do you want to work for a call center? I don't know. I like the salary. It's good. I don't know. It's good. And that's like 0, 0, 0, 0. Goodbye. No manage. No manage of the conversation. So avoid. Don't say I don't know. Say In English, we say All right. And people will respond, yeah, sure, for sure, So make sure, don't say I don't know. Say All right, guys. So let's continue with our class now. We're going to listen to an activity. I want you to open the worksheet. We're going to listen to the fillers and we're going to fill in you're going to complete by listening and writing the fillers on the blank. Then you're going to role play with a partner the conversation. All right, guys. So conversation fillers in the end will help you to speak natural conversations by using these words, sounds, or phrases, and it'll help you gather your thoughts, which will give you time to think and to avoid silence gaps when you're speaking. So go ahead and use them. Learn as many as you can. Coach yourself not to say or este. If you catch yourself saying this, say that's not the correct filler. Let's use the correct one. Okay. So I hope that you learn them and that you're able to pass your interviews. Now let's go to the ending. We're gonna finish the call. Finally. Okay, so this is how we do it. This is a cool phrase. Once again, my name is, and then you say your agent name, Leo. Once again, my name is Leo.